Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and completely demystify the ultimate masterclass on wealth creation. Seriously, we are going to completely shift our mindset today, moving away from that exhausting short-term frustration and locking in on long-term structural strategy. Because let's be real, if you have ever stared at your investment account after months or even years of doing absolutely everything right and just wondered why the numbers aren't moving faster, well, you're in the right place. This is exactly what you need to understand.
We have got a fantastic roadmap acting as our guide today. We are going to cover 1. The early grind, 2. Fueling your investment base, 3. Growth versus dividend investing, 4. The buy and hold advantage, and finally, number 5, reaching the tipping points.
All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the early grind.
So the most crucial question we have to ask right out of the gate is this. If compounding is supposed to be this incredibly powerful, life-changing force, why on earth does it take so long to actually feel that power when we first start investing? I mean, what is actually going on behind the scenes in those first few frustrating years?
Well, let's look at a very real example to put this into perspective. Meet Daniel. He's a project manager who did absolutely everything right. He set up his automatic transfers, he picked a low-cost index fund, and he just left it alone. Exactly what the experts say to do, right? Yet, after his entire first year, his day job paid him a $62,000 salary, while his totally solid 8% portfolio return generated a mere $880.
Just think about that for a second. His job made an astounding 70 times more money than his investments did that year. And it's exactly this 70-to-1 ratio that quietly tricks so many investors into thinking their strategy is fundamentally broken. They assume, oh, I must have picked the wrong fund, or I need to chase way riskier assets. But the truth, the strategy isn't broken at all.
Which brings us to part 2, fueling your investment base. You see, the reality is that the problem in those early years actually isn't a bad rate of return. Your return rate is just your engine. The actual problem is a small capital base, which acts as your fuel tank. And you simply cannot fix a small fuel tank by tinkering with the engine's mechanics. To fix a small base, we absolutely have to utilize 3 key moves of compounding. Number 1 is automating your contributions so you literally never miss a month. Number 2 is total dividend reinvestment. But while automation and reinvestment are easy structural decisions that you basically make once, number 3, income growth, that requires you to actively pump more fuel into the tank.
And this is crucial because every single additional dollar you invest in your 30s has a massive, outsized impact over a 30-year horizon. Finding ways to accelerate your base early on is just a complete game changer. This is exactly why side hustles, like for example, creating highly profitable faceless AI YouTube channels, are the absolute perfect fuel pumps for your investment engine.
It's easier than ever, too, by utilizing free and highly accessible AI tools to run through topic research, generate your scripts, create incredibly human-sounding voiceovers, and even animate your videos. You suddenly have a highly practical way to bridge your income gap. You really don't need a huge team or a massive budget to boost your income and aggressively feed your portfolio base anymore.
Moving right along to part 3, growth versus dividend investing.
Okay, so now that we're actively and aggressively fueling our base, how exactly do we manage that money? Well, this leads us straight into a classic debate, weighing explosive growth stocks against steady dividend strategies. And the answer here completely depends on understanding exactly where you are in the investor's life cycle. That is absolutely critical. Young investors in the accumulation phase, they can handle much more volatility and just ride out market dips. But pre-retirees in the decumulation phase, they require stability, downside protection, and most importantly, consistent cash flow to replace their working income.
The trade-off is honestly brilliant when you lay it out. While the S&P 500 absolutely wins in explosive bull markets with much higher total returns, it definitely comes with some dramatic, stomach-churning swings. On the flip side, the dividend aristocrats, these are companies with a solid 25-year streak of raising their payouts. They provide essential stability. They actually outperform the broader market during severe crashes, basically acting as shock absorbers for your entire portfolio.
But listen, whether you lean toward growth or value, never, ever forget total reinvestment. Historically speaking, a massive 40% of total stock market returns come quietly from reinvested dividends. Taking dividends as cash in your early years is basically a silent failure mode that literally leaves nearly half of your potential wealth just sitting on the table.
Let's dive into part 4, the buy and hold advantage.
To really get this, let's explore some real-world accumulation using a highly successful buy and hold portfolio.
We want to see this compounding math in spectacular action over a long-term horizon. Take a look at Nick's portfolio allocation. It heavily leans into tech megacaps, securing about 80% of his pie for that secular, unstoppable growth. Then, he anchors the rest with industrial and real estate dividends. But the real secret here isn't just in what Nick buys, it is entirely in how long he holds it.
Because we've all been there, right? When you see incredible, life-changing gains on companies driving the AI and data center boom, think Broadcom or Amphenol, the temptation is incredibly strong to just sell and take those profits off the table, lock it in. But doing so triggers a massive mathematical disadvantage.
Let's break the math down really quick. A painful $300 tax penalty on a simple $2,000 profit means you shrink your capital base right out of the gate. Because of that lost capital going straight to taxes, your next investment has to somehow magically outperform your old one by over 10% just to break even. This proves exactly why simply holding on to high-quality compounders is a far superior strategy. By simply holding on to secular growth machines, companies driven by massive, undeniable trends like data center and aerospace demand, you can achieve remarkable double-digit annualized returns over a 15-year stretch. The numbers tell a crazy story. We're talking 27% annual growth for Broadcom and 17% for Amphenol and Parker Hannifin. The growth literally handles itself when you stay disciplined and just hold.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, Reaching the Tipping Points.
This is where our narrative arc reaches its absolute peak. This is when the compounding curve bends sharply upwards and passive income confidently takes the wheel. Tipping point 1 is what we call the magical crossover moment. This is defined as the exact point where your market returns actually exceed your annual contributions. You officially transition from being the sole engine pulling the heavy cart to becoming the supervisor of an automated wealth machine.
Look at the pure arithmetic of this milestone, it's amazing. For an investor contributing $6,000 a year and assuming a standard 10% return, this foundational crossover happens at exactly a $60,000 balance. At that specific dollar amount, the market adds $6,000 to your account, precisely matching your own hard work for the year.
Consider Sophia's journey as an example. She hits the crossover at year 7. Once that curve bends, she rides the acceleration all the way to $220,000 by year 14 and then reaches the massive $1 million threshold by year 30. And here is absolutely the craziest part. She only contributed 18% of that total capital herself. Time and compounding literally did the rest of the heavy lifting. This momentum brings us to tipping point 2, the salary replacement threshold. This is an exact mathematical target where your day job becomes totally optional. Take James, for example. By reaching a $600,000 balance, a 10% return perfectly replaces his $60,000 teaching salary without him having to lift a single finger. That shift, going from financial obligation to true financial choice, is what tipping point 2 actually delivers. The ultimate goal is to build that buffer, even if you're starting at just $1,000 a month, and protect it like your financial life depends on it. So, I want to leave you with a thought to really chew on today. Which of those 3 compounding moves are you currently missing? And how quickly can you start pumping the right fuel into your tank so you can finally build the buffer that gives you ultimate financial freedom?